Let me know if you can relate to any of this. Your inbox is a giant mess that you can't keep up with. Your life is filled with social chatter and yet you feel like you still don't belong anywhere. And when you go to parties or go to work, you're surrounded by people and feel like you're still alone. A lot of us don't feel at home in our own social lives because we haven't designed them from the ground up with our biology in mind, and wonder why we don't feel fulfilled. Last week, if you saw my last video, I went a week without my phone, and I've been thinking a lot about digital minimalism. I think minimalism is such a powerful tool for getting organized and being intentional in no matter what aspect of your life. In a nutshell, it's about identifying what matters to you so you can get rid of the excess. And it can be such a useful philosophy in designing our social lives too. So there's someone special I want to introduce you all to. Her name is Stephanie Lee. She's a licensed psychotherapist and dating coach, and she's been one of my favorite go-to people to consult on understanding human connection and how we relate to each other as it relates to mental health, among other things. And it just so happens that she's actually right here behind me.
So cheesy.
Why do we as humans need relationships? Why are they so important?
So different relationships fulfill different needs. For example, we have friendships or people that we confide in. You know, they're there to support our emotional needs, where if we didn't have that kind of support, we might feel alone and despair and not want to keep moving forward in life. But even at a very physical or practical level, we have doctors, we have dentists, we have, you know, our Amazon delivery guy, because, you know, you need your 2-hour delivery. But yeah, there's so many different ways that relationships fulfill needs, whether it's a close, intimate one or whether it's somebody that provides a service to us. Relationships fulfill all different types of needs.
There's a concept by Robin Dunbar, an anthropologist and psychologist who spent his career studying the social lives of primates. He found that across a given species, group sizes tended to max out at roughly the same number. The larger the brain, the more active social connections they were able to maintain. And this concept is so influential that it's now commonly called the Dunbar number, the maximum number of connections that our brains have the capacity to handle at any given time. And so it just so happens that for humans, if you extrapolate that curve, the maximum number of connections we can handle is about 148, or more commonly rounded to 150. And the crazy thing is, anthropologists have seen this number pop up again and again throughout human history in the way we humans organize ourselves, from the sizes of villages across the world to how we organize our military divisions. Somehow we keep finding our way back to this number, roughly 150. And furthermore, following Dunbar's research, we can further subdivide our social groups into smaller and smaller categories based on closeness. Dunbar says we're equipped to have about 5 super close, intimate connections in our inner circle. And from there, we have the next layer of 15 people, which is our close friends, or as Dunbar calls it, our sympathy group, which is the people that he says would be devastated if we were to die. Then from there, we've got 50 friends in the next circle, and then 150 looser connections on the outside. Other researchers have built upon this and suggested 2 more layers of 500 people that we know as acquaintances, and then a maximum of 1,500 people that we can recognize. And you can start to see the borders of that last layer if you're scrolling Facebook and you see someone who you're clearly friends with, but you have no idea who they are. And I don't know about you, but trying to manage this many connections can get pretty overwhelming sometimes. When I'm juggling so many messages, I'm constantly talking to people, and yet I feel pretty disconnected sometimes. And I'm trying to figure out why.
So it's an incredible thing that human beings have this drive towards survival, towards getting up every day and doing things to help fulfill our needs so that we can live and survive as a species. But the problem with it is that oftentimes we're doing things on autopilot, and this is what I call living in a way that's reactionary. So when it comes to our social lives, you know, without even thinking about it, we're constantly checking our notifications, responding to everybody, calling everyone back, you know, making these choices day after day without really understanding why. And so this is why it's important that we really think about being intentional about the needs that we have and what we're doing to meet them and what the trade-offs are. So sometimes we might get busy trying to meet a social need when really what we need is a need for rest. Or we might decide that we want to respond to all of these emails and then not have time to actually have an in-person interaction. That is what you actually need. So it's good to really step back and think about what are the needs that I have, what kind of connection am I lacking, and really focus on going after those needs. And that's what I would call being intentional versus reactionary.
That's really cool. So talking to Stephanie made me realize something I am very guilty of. Trying to hoard as many friends as I possibly can, regardless of the quality of those connections. Don't get me wrong, I see everyone as a friend I just haven't met yet, and I want to be friends and help as many people as I possibly can. But at the same time, I'm actually now seeing how that can be diluting and taking a toll on the relationships that I value and need as a person. And so what I'm trying to do now is to invest more in these closer relationships to get back to this healthier balance. But maybe for you, it's the opposite. Maybe for you, you've got a really strong core and don't have as much of a wider support social network. So maybe the best thing for you is to get more balanced and go meet other people that you don't already know. So Dunbar actually said this himself in a New Yorker interview. He said, "The amount of social capital you have is pretty fixed. It involves time investment. And obviously we have a finite amount of time. So if you garner connections with more people, you end up distributing your fixed amount of social capital more thinly. So the average capital per person is lower." And so as you're trying to figure this out for yourself, here are some questions that you can ask. When you look through your calendar, where does your time go? How are you investing your time and social energy? And like any responsible investor, what does your social portfolio look like? And so the good news here is that no matter what your current situation looks like, the choice to be intentional is always within your control. If you're new here, this channel is all about how we can design our lives to bring back human connection, this piece that's shown by science and research to be an integral piece of what it means to live a good, fulfilling life. And it's something that sadly our society has kind of forgotten about in our pursuit of success, fame, achievement, all this other stuff that we think will make us happy. We've forgotten that a big piece of that is to get our social needs met. We know about food, we've got diets, we've got exercise, but we haven't thought about our social health. And that's such a big piece for what it actually means to live a life in which you can be happy. And we've actually coined a word for this idea, this movement we're building called Connectionism. Because sometimes having a word helps us to wrap our brains around something so we can actually make it an important piece of our lives. But if you're at all confused, I explain Connectionism and everything, the story behind it, in this video over here. Check that out if you're at all curious. And much love. Sending you big hugs, especially if you need one today. Yeah, bye.